This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay. Rabbi, so we begin with the Gemara Masechta Rosh Hashanah on Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Beis, which is not on your sheets. The Gemara says, Bikesh Kaiheles Limtzai Divrei Chayfetz. Kaiheles wanted to find desirable words. Says the Gemara, what does that mean? Bikesh Kaiheles Liyos K'Moshe. Kaiheles, Shlomo wanted to be like Moshe. Yatzis Abaskol v'Amrlai, Abaskol went out and said, V'kasuv Yosher Divrei Emes. It's written straight words of truth. Very mysterious Gemara. First of all, again, the Gemara says, Bikesh Kaiheles Limtzai Divrei Chayfetz, which the Gemara says means Kaiheles wanted to be like Moshe, and Hashem said, no, sorry, too bad, V'kasuv Yosher Divrei Emes. What does it mean Kaiheles wanted to be like Moshe? And what was Hashem saying? No, V'kasuv Yosher Divrei Emes. Says Rav Shaul May Amsterdam, right? When it rains, it pours. You know, we haven't quoted him, I don't think we ever quoted him before, and this week we already quoted him twice. As well as the Chidah brings us down from the Chachmei Ashkenaz. And they're like this. What does it mean that Shlomo wanted to be like Moshe? Nobody knew the time for the Parah Aduma except for Moshe Rabbeinu. The Medrash says Moshe was the only one who ever knew the reason for the Parah Aduma, but Shlomo did not know the reason for the Parah Aduma. So Shlomo wanted to be like Moshe. In other words, he wanted to know the reason for the Parah Aduma. Now, where is it merumaz that Moshe knew the reason for the Parah Aduma? It says, V'lakhu la'tameh me'afar sreifas hachatas. La'tameh lamed. Me'afar mem sreifas shin hachatas hey. Lamed mem shin hey le'Moshe. In other words, who understood why v'lakhu la'tameh me'afar sreifas hachatas? LeMoshe. This is something that only Moshe Rabbeinu understood. So Shlomo HaMelech looks at it, he says, that's very nice. Lamed, Mem, Shin, Hey. That also spells out Shlomo. So if he can know it, I can also know it. Hashem says no. V'kasuv Yosher Divrei Emes. It has to be written straight, not backwards. V'kasuv Yosher Divrei Emes. It's only a remez if it's straight. Don't try to stick yourself into the Parah Aduma. And therefore Shlomo HaMelech says, Amarti Achkama V'hi Rechaika Mimeni. Says the Reikach Rechaika is the Gematria Parah Aduma. That's what Shlomo HaMelech meant. Amarti Achkama, I thought I would be wise. V'hi Rechaika Mimeni, but it is far from me. Okay.
Why does Shlomo have to understand the reason?
He wanted to. Part of the Torah.
Yeah, it's part of the Torah, but there's part of the Torah you don't understand.
But Moshe understood it. Moshe understood.
Accept it. How do we know Moshe? How?
So, there's a medrash, but there's also a remez in the Rashi Tevis. Okay. Okay. Weiter, we come to a very interesting part of the Parsha. The end of the Parsha, Perek Chaf Aleph, Pasuk Dalet. Vayisu mehar har derech Yamsuf Lizbah v'Saretz Edom. The Klal Yisrael traveled from Har HaHar, where Aaron died, through the Yamsuf, surrounding Edom. V'atiktzar nefesh ha'am b'adarech. And the people, their souls grew faint. Vayidaber ha'am be'elokimu v'Moshe. And the people spoke some lashon hara. They spoke against Hashem. They spoke against Moshe, and they said, Lama halisanu mitzrayim lamas b'midbar. Why do you take us out of Mitzrayim to die in the wilderness? Ki ein lechem, there's no bread. Ve'ein mayim, there's no water. V'nafshenu katza, and our soul is disgusted. Ba'alechem hakaloika, with this nothing food, with this insignificant food. So what happened? Vayishalach Hashem ba'am. God sent against the people. Now, take note of the fact that when they spoke about the lashon hara, they said they spoke be'elokim. And here, who's punishing them? Not elokim, yud kei vav kei, vayishalech Hashem ba'am. Now notice, who spoke? Ha'am. Then it says vayishalech Hashem ba'am eis hanachashim hasrafim. The snakes. How many snakes? At least two. Many snakes. The burning, fiery snakes. God sent against the people the fiery snakes, the fiery serpents. Vayinashchu es ha'am, Vayamos Amrav mi Yisrael. And a large amount of people died. It doesn't say Meha'am, like it says who God sent the snakes against. Normally Ba'am refers to the Erev Rav. And here, he sent the snakes against Ba'am, but Amrav died mi Yisrael, even from the regular Jews. They said, we sinned. Ki dibanu b'Hashem v'avach. We spoke against God and you, and here they retracted. At first it says they spoke against Elohim, and now the Jewish people concede they spoke against Yud Kei Vav Kei. Hispalel al Hashem v'yasmer aleinu hanachash. Remove the snake. What do you mean the snake? I thought it's snakes. I thought God sent the Nechashim. What do you mean the Nachash? Vayistal Moshe b'yad Moshe prayed. Vayemer Hashem al Moshe aseh l'chasaraf. Make a serpent. The Shimai say al nes, put it on a pole. The Hayakal hanashuch. Anyone who got bit, v'ra yisay v'chay, and they'll see it and they'll live. Vayas Moshe nechash nechoshes. Moshe made a copper snake. Vayisimei al nes. He put it on the pole. V'haya, and it was. Im nashach hanachash asish. If a snake bit a man, v'hibid al nechash hanechoshes v'chay, and he stared at the copper snake and he lived. Very interesting. Hashem says to Moshe, make a snake, and anyone who's bitten, v'ra yisai, he'll see it. Moshe makes a snake, and whoever got bit, v'hibit. Now there's a very big difference between habata and re'iyah.
Habata is staring.
Habata is to gaze. Re'iyah is just to look at, right? We know, hamistaka b'shlosh dvarim. Anyone who thinks about these two things, right? Eino mavia, right? Eino b'shlosh dvarim. Eino lo yaveh lidei chet, right? Me'ayin basa, u'mulan ata halech, l'fnei mi ata asa litan din b'cheshvan. Right? Hamistaka b'shlosh dvarim. We all know that. We know where we come from. We know where we're going. We know before whom we're going to give din b'cheshvan. And yet we do averos. Why? Because the Mishnah doesn't say know these things. It says be mistakel. Mistakel means bekavana, focus, right? The halacha is you're now to gaze at the moon. The Gemara says you're now to be mistakel belavana. It's asar. It's asar. You know that? In fact, in the Chidas Vidoy on Yom Kippur, one of the things you say Vidoy for is the histakalti belavana. I gazed at the moon. But wait a second. But how could you do kiddush savana if you can't gaze at the moon? The answer is you're allowed to look at the moon, you're not allowed to gaze at the moon. There's a difference between Re'iyah and Habata and Histaklos. So Hashem tells Klal Yisrael, V'ra Yisai V'chai, and here, V'hibid on Nechash and Nechashes V'chai. So the Chafetz Chaim, in the Sefer Shmiras Halashon, he raises 5 questions on the Pesukim we just read. But he begins in the following way, and then there's going to be a 6th question raised by Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz. First, the Chafetz Chaim points out in the Sefer Shmiras Halashon, Chelek Beis, it says what we just read by Yisumei Har V'ach Yamsav Lizbah V'Sa'aretz Edom, Hinei Yadua. Chafetz Chaim writes, we all know, when did Klal Yisrael travel away from Har? This was at the end of the 40 years, when they're about to go into Eretz Yisrael. Shazeh, right? This was already Chodesh Elul of the Shnas Harban, of the 40th year. They cried for Aaron 30 days. Aaron died on Rosh Chodesh Av. This is at least an Elul. They're about to go into Eretz Yisrael in a couple of months. This was in the last time period. That Mesei HaMidbar they finished dying. They're about to go into Eretz Yisrael. But because of this circuitous route that they took through Eretz Edom, that they didn't allow them to go into their land, Amru, they figured, oh no, yeah right, we're going in, right? Yeah right, we're about to go in. Yeah, we're about, so why isn't Edom letting us go in? Right? Right? It's a source in Torah, you can't go through a red light. Right? So, Klal Yisrael started to speak Lashon Hara. Amru shchas v'sham yimashich oid harbe shanim v'zeh shegaram lehem ladaber shelo kahogan. This caused them to speak improperly. V'nen shuma oid ayidezeh. V'chol zeh remez v'seif hagalos. This is a hint to what will happen at the end of days. Right before Mashiach comes. You know, you have people, they speak Lashon, they say, Mashiach, right? Never going to happen. So this is Maisa Avos Simon Labanim. You see, right before the Geula happens, right before Klal Yisrael goes into Eretz Yisrael, you have people start speaking Lashon Hara, and it prolongs it. Therefore, a person has to be very careful what he says. Look at the next paragraph. Chofetz Chaim raises 5 questions on the psukim we just read. There are a number of questions here. Number 1. First it says they spoke about Elokim. Which one was it? Did they speak Lashon Hara against Elokim, or was it Yud Kei Vav Kei? Also, question number 2. First it says Vayinashchu es ha'am, which indicates like the Erev Rav, and then it says who died? Vayamasam Rav mi Yisrael, even the elite Jews died. Question number 3. Why did the Bnei Yisrael daven v'yaser me'aleinu es hanachash? Should say Nachashim. It says Vayishalach Hashem b'amas hanachashim. Number 4, Moshe davened. Look what it says. Vayisalam Moshe. But the tefillah didn't help completely, because they still needed to gaze at the copper snake. And whoever got bit, he would look at the snake. Why couldn't Moshe Rabbeinu's tefillah be completely effective, that he davened and the snakes disappear? And finally, number 5, it says like this. It says, V'haya kol hanashuch, anyone who's bit, meaning even someone who's not so chashuv, anyone who's bit. And then it says, Im noshach hanochash es ish, only a very important person, if they're bit, they'll look at the snake. So we have 2 types of people that are being bit. We have kol hanashuch, anyone who's bit, any Joe off the street who's bit, and then we have ish. Says the Chofetz Chaim, we'll answer one at a time. Look at the next paragraph. No matter rishon. Mahu zeh shekasam etchila vaydaber ha'am Elokim. What does it mean they spoke about Elokim? Ki tafsu ma'asei nachash. What the Jewish people were doing is they were emulating the snake, right? That original snake. What did the original snake do? He also spoke Lashon Hara about God, right? Shadiber gamken al Kadosh Baruch Hu. Right? What did the snake say? The snake said, you know why Hashem doesn't want you to eat from the Eitz Hadas? Because ki b'yom acholcha mimenu, right? Ki yoidea ki b'yom acholcha v'yisam kelokim. The snake said, if you're going to eat from the tree, you're going to be like Elokim. And therefore, Hashem doesn't want you to eat from it. So likewise, this is what they said. V'yaf kan. You know what the Erev Rav said? They said, you know why God gave you this man? This is terrible bread. This is mekolkol. God is going to allow the man to kill you. Because, think about it. What happened when you ate the man in the morning, and then at night, and then the next morning? And then Klal Yisrael said, wait a second. How come there's no waste product? We're eating them out, we're consuming. There's no waste product. Why not? So the Erev Rav started to speak Lashon Hara. God is like treating you like a soita. You're going to eat the man, it's going to explode in your stomach. God is obviously using the man as an instrument to kill you with the midah of Elokim to try to exact retribution against you. But the truth is, that's not what God had in mind at all. God was doing them a very big favor by having them eat without waste product. And that is because the Torah says that when Klal Yisrael had a need to go to the bathroom, where did they have to go? They had to go outside the camp, outside the Anan, and then shovel out dirt and cover it up. It would be a tremendous hassle and difficulty if they constantly had to leave the camp, if they had waste. And therefore Hashem, in His infinite kindness, gave them a type of food that didn't produce waste. God gave them absolute heavenly food that did not create any waste product. Even Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov didn't have such a good food. Uchamasha Kasuf. Vayachilcha Samana Shlo Yadata V'lo Yadan Aveisecha L'man HaYodiacha Ki Lo Yalechem V'Aliyich Adam K'Almoitza K'Almoitza V'Yashem Yechei Adam. And God wanted to give them this heavenly food, because they knew the unknown was always with them, and if they would have to produce waste, they would have to go outside of the camp. And therefore, finally, Klal Yisrael realized that what they thought they were criticizing Elohim, the Midas Hadin, that God wanted to punish them. In fact, it was Hashem, it was the Midas Harachamim, the Midas HaChesed of Hashem for giving them the man. Now look at the next paragraph.
Didn't we say the man was in the Zkus of Moshe?
Yes.
So the Zkus of Moshe, what do you mean with Midas Harachamim of Kodesh Baruch Hu? Conflict?
Look, even you still, just because something is in your zocher or something, you still need Hashem's rachamim. It was in Moshe's merit, but the fact that God gave it b'chlal was a great mercy. He had mercy on us that He allowed Moshe's chus to be a merit for us. Okay, now why did Hashem send snakes against us? Why specifically snakes? Why not wild buffalo? Why not?
Snake has a history with the Bnei Yisrael.
What?
Right by Adam caused us trouble. Snake and the Jews don't get along.
Vayishalach Hashem ba'omes hanachashim hasrafim. Why? V'hu mishum shebediburam itar hanachash hakadmoni v'kitra galeim. By Klal Yisrael speaking Lashon Hara, that awakened the original snake to accuse against us. And now the Chafetz Chaim, as he does so often in the Sefer Shmiras Halashain, probably the Sefer he quotes more than any other Sefer is the Zohar HaKadosh. Luckily we have a Hebrew translation on the side. K'de'isa b'Zohar HaKadosh Parshas Pekudei. It's Rucha Chada. There's a certain spirit. The Kaima al Kol Inun Mare de Lishan Abisha, that stands over those who speak Lashon Hara. Now listen to this. Dechad misarei b'nei nasha b'lishan abisha. When people are aroused to speak Lashon Hara, ayahu barnash de misarei b'lishan abisha. Or an individual that is aroused to speak Lashon Hara. Kedain itahu rucha bisha misava de leila. Then it is awakened a harmful spirit from above. De'ikri sachsucha, which is called sachsucha, okay? Just in case you were wondering what's the name of the spirit is, it's called Sachsucha. Here you have a guy, he spoke Lashon Hara, comes Sachsucha, he rushes to the scene. The Sharu b'nei Nasha that people opened with. This guy, this Sachsucha, Ruach, he takes the Lashon Hara, he brings it upstairs. Bigarim Be'ahu Isara Delishana Bisha, and he uses the Lashon Hara to cause Maisa, death in the world, Becharba, murder, Ukitala, and killing. Vaililan the Messiah Sitra Bisha, woe to those who awaken this spirit. V'lanatre Pumayo V'lishana, and they don't watch their mouth and their tongue. V'lo Yade, and they don't realize the Habisarusa de la Sata, Talya Isaru de la Ila. That by awakening in Lashon Hara down here, that awakens the Sachsucha, and it makes Hashem cause death and murder in this world. So the person thinks, he's in the confines of his own home. What did he do already? He just spoke Lashon Hara. He may have just killed people. Bein l'tav, bein levish. V'chulhu, and all these Bali Lashon Hara. V'chulhu de le'itarin. Le'asara l'hai chivya rava. They all awaken the great snake. Le'mehevi de le'itara al-oma, who then places accusations against the world. V'chulhu begin hai isaru de lishana bisha, and it is all because of that hisarurus of Lashon Hara. That is what the Zohar says. Says the Chafetz Chaim, V'al kein shalach Hashem. Therefore God sent. Now here it doesn't say Elohim sent; it says Hashem sent. Why Shem Havaya? Because Hashem wanted them to get a kapara. It was a chesed to them, so that they have a chelik in Olam Haba. Hashem sent in a chashim hasrafim. Even though you could ask, what do you mean He sent? There are always snakes in the midbar. What did Hashem have to send them? The midbar is full of snakes. He says, yeah, but who died?
What?
The Anan, but this is after the Misa of Aaron.
It didn't come back here,
So now we have to get into, Rabbi Glatstein said it didn't come back the whole month of Av, and Pinchas Mekar says it didn't come back until the next Shabbos.
We paid attention Wednesday.
What?
We paid attention.
Okay, good. והגם שאף לא יזהו מצוין גם כן במנחה זופן, אם כל זה הויסה השגח לשם שלהם נויגים מהם, God protected them. ולא יכנתה. So now two things are happening. Number one, God is inciting the snakes. Number two, He's removing His protection from the snakes that are already there. Okay? Now, not only are they not protected, Hashem is inciting them. So again, He's doing two things. He's inciting the snakes, and He's removing His protection from the snakes that are already there. Now, who is He inciting the snakes against? He's only inciting the snakes against those, the Erev Rav. But for all the Jews, He's removing His protection that the snakes that are already there can now attack. So two things are happening. Look carefully at the psukim. Vayishalach Hashem ba'am. The inciting of the snakes is only ba'am. But vayamas amrav mi Yisrael. But even good Jews now started to die. Why? I thought Hashem only incited the snakes against the The answer is the snakes were only incited against the But against everybody else, the hashgacha hal yaino was removed. God's protection was removed. So now the snakes are able to get anybody. So look what it says. V'inyan hageroi hayarak al ha'am shehem hayu ikar hamadav. V'almi shahayu b'chinas Yisrael. But for the regular Jews, lo hayu geroi. But through the great accusation of awakening the snake in Shamayim, everyone was left unprotected. And we've answered the second question. In other words, the snakes bit the but even Amrav mi Yisrael also died. Okay.
But how do the snakes know how to differentiate? And what was the result also of? We said that a Kadosh Baruch Hu incited the snakes against the Erev Rav.
Yeah.
So, and if the protection of the other snakes was removed, what's the difference between the snakes who went after the Bnei Israel because the protection for Bnei Israel was removed, and the snakes that were incited against the Erev Rav?
Obviously,
it's the same.
This is miraculous that Hashem incited the snakes against.
But
the
Jews were in the same danger because the snakes.
Yeah, but the percentage on, in other words, Amrav mi Yisrael. Besides the fact that the was taken care of, but many Jews also suffered. Many Jews, maybe it wasn't as much. Well, percentage-wise, maybe it wasn't as much, but nevertheless, they were also there. Hashem removed the protection, but maybe there are those of Jews who merited their own protection. But it was a different level. The snakes were not provoked against the regular Jews. Just like any time. You go to a dangerous place, if you don't have protection, maybe the snakes will get you, maybe not. So that's what happened to the regular Yisrael. How did the snakes know? Hashem programmed them. He programmed the snakes. They knew who to get.
The people who said
like in Mitzrayim. How did the wild animals know who the Egyptians were? Okay. Now we have to explain, why did Klal Yisrael say, V'yasar me'aleinu es hanachash, remove the snake? It's not a snake, it's the snakes. And the answer is, Klal Yisrael realized that what is causing this attack is not the snake slithering on, it's the great nachash in Shemayim. It's the chivya rabbah, like the Zayar says, that the snake, the nachash, which is being mekatrig on them in Shamayim, that's what they wanted to remove. V'yasar me'aleinu es hanachash. And therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu davened. However, when Moshe davened, what happened? Things only, with the attack, two things happened. They were incited, and the protection from the regular snakes was removed. So now Moshe's tefillah was only successful. Moshe's tefillah was only successful in remove that the snakes were no longer incited, but the hashgacha of Hashem was not returned. So
the Erev Rav, who were the subject of the inciting, the snakes being incited, they're the ones that benefit from Moshe's tefillah. Why the Erev Rav? Why would the
they benefit, but now look, they're also subject to the regular snakes.
I know, but if Moshe would pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why would the Erev Rav be more of a benefit? At least their level.
So let's see. Look at the second to last paragraph. God said, make a snake. Why? That which you want to be revert back to the way things were, to be completely protected, that's impossible. Why? Because once you give the great snake the power to accuse, it is very difficult to silence him. And therefore we cannot silence him, and you cannot be completely protected. But from now on, I will not incite the snakes against you, but you're still in danger. Now from this danger, make a snake. Put it up on the height of a pole. For what purpose? What are we looking at? Look, that you always have to realize that when a person talks, he has the capacity to awaken the great snake in Shemayim. That they have to understand and contemplate and think that through their words they awaken the great snake. And this great snake accused them. Like the Tana Belyo tells us that when a person speaks Lashon Hara, it reaches all the way to the Kisei HaKavod. And this way, you'll be humble. You'll humble yourself before Hashem, and He'll have mercy on you. And that answers the fourth question regarding why Moshe Rabbeinu's tefillah was not effective. It was effective regarding the giroi, the inciting, but in terms of restoring the original protection, that was not possible. Now, one last question is, why do we say first v'haya kol hanashoch, anyone who's bit, and then we say v'haya im nashach hanachash as ish? There are two types of people. They're regular people, and they're very great people. Now we know, when a person sins, the amount of destruction that it causes in Shemayim is dependent on how great they are. A person has a greater neshama, the destruction they cause in Shemayim is greater. Person is a lower level, the corruption is lower. Says the pasuk. Now we can explain the end of the pasuk. There's a difference in people. Someone who's not so important. His words and deeds only are effective based on what level he's on. As opposed to someone on a very high level. So when he does an avera, his avera causes greater destruction, and destruction even higher ilamis. And therefore, right? If the person who was bit was just an ordinary person, he only had to look at it. Why? Because since his avera was not so terrible, he wasn't such a great person. All he needed to do is vira. He looks at it. But im nashach hanachash es ish adam chashuv, and the nachash bit him, then what did he have to do? V'hibit. He had to be mistakel. He had to gaze with intention and thought and meditation what this saraf on the stick represented, what his actions, what the ramifications are, and that a snake doesn't bite for nothing, and probably he must have done an aveira, and he has to ask Hashem for forgiveness. As Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz, we know that this nachash, it lasted many, many, many years, right? Until the time of Chizkiyahu HaMelech, where Chizkiyahu HaMelech destroyed the Nachash HaNachashis of Moshe Rabbeinu. And the question the Gemara in Erechon asks, Gemara in Chulin asks, why Dafka Chizkiyahu destroyed it? None of the earlier kings destroyed it. Why not? Very interesting that the Mishnah Psachim says Chizkiyahu did 6 things. 3 of them the Chachamim agreed with, 3 of them they didn't agree with. This is one of the things that they agreed with. So if it was such a good thing that he did, why did no one else do it? Well, the Chazal tell us people started to go astray because of this copper snake of Moshe Rabbeinu. Well, if that's the case, why didn't any of the earlier kings destroy it? Says Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz that the purpose of this snake, he said very interesting, the same exact thing as the Chafetz Chaim. The purpose of the snake was to remind them not to speak Lashon Hara. Right? And now what does the snake got to do with Lashon Hara? Because before the Lashon Hara of the snake was on a very high pedestal. In other words, think about the snake before he sinned. He was on the top of the world. He was on a high pedestal. What happened to him after he sinned? He fell to the great end. Now he has to slither around. Everyone steps on his head. He eats the dirt. So the purpose of this snake, similar to the Chofetz Chaim, was to realize what the ramifications of Lashon Hara are. Says Rav Yonasan Eibeshitz, in the times of Chizkiyahu HaMelech, they didn't need this lesson. Why not? Because Chazal tell us, the Gemara says, "V'choyvel oil mipnei shemen," that Chizkiyahu HaMelech, in the time of Chizkiyahu, there was not a tinok v'tinokas midan v'yad Bershev shelo haya baki b'tumah v'tahara. Right? The knowledge of Torah was so widespread. There was never a time in our history where there's so much Torah knowledge. Says the Gemara in Erchin, "Ma takanasa shabali lashon hara." What is the takana that you don't come to speak lashon hara? Yasek b'Torah. So in the times of Chizkiyahu HaMelech, they didn't need the snake. That's why he was the first one to get rid of it. In his time, they had a different remedy. They had a different takana. The takana of the widespread Torah knowledge. And therefore, Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz in number 2 writes, we'll read the first paragraph. Ube'emes k'amru Chazal ein takana li'notzim lashon hara ela behasmadas haTorah. Only through diligence. Ushkedas beis haknesses beis hamedrash. Right? We once had a shiur that every human being has to talk, and to remain silent and never to talk, not really possible. Torah is the muzzle, right? You can't muzzle your mouth. You need to channel speech into something good. The eitzah to avoid lashon hara is Torah. So Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz says that was in the olden days. In the Bimei HaKadmonim, Shelo Hayu Masichim Beis HaKnesses Beis HaMedrash Kiyum Dvar Torah Dvar Mitzvah. In the olden days, everybody understood that in a shul you're not allowed to talk. By the way, everybody talks about you can't talk by davening. Forget about davening. You're not allowed to talk in a shul. So open halacha and Shulchan Aruch. Even nowadays with the Tanoim, you're not allowed to talk in a shul. It's open halacha. You wanna? What's the rationalization? If you're mechaven, I'm going over to my friend to ask him how he's doing. To be mekayim the mitzvah da'iraisa v'yahavta l'reach l'kamaycha. Okay, maybe you could say there's a heter. Shulchan Aruch doesn't give that heter. Okay, I've seen some places want to give that heter. But if that's not your kavana, the kavana is just, why not? Mincha's in 5 minutes. I might as well shmooze. I don't know. But anyway, Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz says nowadays by V'nisenu harabim, a lot of the lashon hara and rechilas is taking place in the Beis HaKnesses, in the Beis HaMedrash, right? So what should have been a haven from lashon hara has turned into the opposite. But this is how the Chofetz Chaim learns the incident of the Nechashim, that the Nachash al Hanes was to remind the people that when they speak lashon hara, it is ma'orer, the mekatrik hagadol, and the eitzah to what Klal Yisrael thought they were speaking about Elokim. They were criticizing the Midas Hadin. They thought Hashem was punishing them with the man, but in truth it was a chesed. It was Dibarnu B'Hashem Babach. And there are 2 levels of punishment. Hashem incited the snakes, and Hashem removed His protection. And therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu's tefillah helped regarding the Giroi, didn't help regarding the protection. Regarding the lack of protection, they needed to hold up the pole, and those who are on a very high level, it wasn't enough just to look at the pole, they had to be mispoinin, they had to be mistakel, and realize the effects of their actions, and this was their protection. Have a good Shabbos.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.